fight this guy. Oh, you got injured in camp, you lose to that guy too. Now you're set back when you could have been a champion.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of like weirdness going on with possibilities and, you know, just luck, bad luck and good luck.
Bad luck and good luck, timing I think is a big thing.
How is something like this allowed to happen? How is Jake Paul allowed to fight Gervonta Davis? It's
I don't know.
Completely unfair. It is completely just, I can't say the word that I want to say because I don't want to get canceled.
And then going out there and taking on a guy that is maybe 92 pounds heavier, that is at least 65 pounds heavier than you. That is called one thing. That's called being a...
Joe Rogan delivers a sharp critique of Jake Paul's decision to fight Gervonta Tank Davis despite the enormous size difference between them. Rogan stresses that weight classes exist in combat sports for a reason, to ensure safety and fairness. Ignoring such divisions, he explains, puts fighters at serious risk of injury and undermines the integrity of boxing. He accuses Jake Paul of prioritizing hype and promotional value over genuine sportsmanship. In Rogan's view, Jake seems more interested in building publicity and generating attention than respecting the sport's traditions or protecting his opponent. The concern, Rogan adds, is that Jake's much larger frame and power could cause real damage to Davis, turning what should be a fair fight into something dangerously unbalanced and unnecessary.
But no time limit within the weight class.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
That would be pretty wild.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
Because
crazy.
you know, like two guys are facing off each other, like, and they know, like, there's no rescue every 5 minutes.
Yeah. And you go into it knowing you're either getting knocked down or submitted, or you're doing that to the other person.
Michael Bisping echoes those concerns, raising serious questions about the fairness and ethics of Jake Paul facing Gervonta Davis given the extreme difference in their natural sizes. He notes that Jake is preparing to fight someone who weighs nearly 100 pounds less than him, which completely distorts the principles that boxing was built on. Bisping recalls how the scheduled bout with Mike Tyson already sparked controversy since Tyson is 58 years old and long retired. Now, the matchup with Tank Davis only intensifies public skepticism. According to Bisping, this fight doesn't look like a true competition, it looks like Jake is chasing personal advantage and financial gain. He argues that boxing thrives on balance, skill, and equality, but this fight leans so heavily in Jake's favor that it seems more like a spectacle than a sporting event. In his words, such mismatches risk the integrity of boxing and the safety of the smaller man.
One thing, that's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, I just beat the baddest man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What don't you understand about this? If you want respect from your peers, if you want everyone on the planet to look at you and take you seriously and give you credit as a boxer, you have to take on challenges that are real. You have to go up against someone that keeps you up at night, against someone that gets you out of bed in the morning to go for a run because the fear of them beating you down is real. Not going up against someone that is so small. If you were to go up to this guy in a bar and try and start a fight with them, people would look at you and say one word, whoa, stop being such a bully, leave him alone. You are way bigger than this guy. And that's clearly what we have here. It is ridiculous. When you look at the tail of the tape, Gervonta Tank Davis, granted, a very, very skilled boxer, a world champion. He's had some great wins. He's had a tremendous career. He's got 28 knockouts on his record. I'm just looking at the tail of the tape here. 30 years old, Jake Paul, 28. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" tall, whereas Jake Paul is 6'1". I would never dream on picking on a guy that is 5'5" tall. Granted, there's some tough guys out there that are 5'5", okay? They're smaller guys, but for 5'5", they'll pack a good punch. Typically, they're mixed martial artists or boxers, yeah.
Legendary trainer Teddy Atlas reacts to the face-off between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis, highlighting how exaggerated the size gap truly is. He jokes that Tank is so small compared to Jake that he'd practically need a ladder to reach Jake's chin. Atlas acknowledges that every fight involves differences in style, speed, and power, but in this case, the size gap is simply too large to ignore. He points out that Tank's physical limitations could make it nearly impossible for him to land clean shots effectively, making the fight seem unfair from the very beginning. Atlas concludes that while fans may enjoy the drama, this matchup crosses the line between competitive sport and staged entertainment.
Right. They should also have like the size of the ring, the size of the glove, all that stuff. Particulars should be in the contract. But I would probably look for one thing that is not the common thing to have in a contract if I'm Tank. A ladder. A ladder. Can I get a ladder? Somebody? You know what I mean? Hey, look, all kidding aside, if he hits him on the chin the way he can punch, Jake might be doing a dance. You know what I mean? Not voluntarily either. But we'll get into that more later. The thing that I'm talking about right here is what you said. It was stark. The size difference was really, you couldn't ignore it. We understand the talent difference, the experience difference. We understand all of that. But the size, the pure, and we understand small guys can beat big guys. We just saw Crawford do it to Canelo, but you know, a little different. The size difference was, I mean, it was eye-catching, jaw-dropping, and it made me think. And I'm gonna ask Richie, our man here who's doing all the taping, who does such a marvelous job. I'm gonna ask him because I know he's an expert in this area. But it reminded me of one of the Rocky movies where they had the face, where they did the wrestling thing with Rocky and Hulk Hogan, a.k.a. Thunderlips. He was Thunderlips back there.
Joe Rogan returns to emphasize that Jake Paul's career strategy has less to do with true athletic competition and more to do with marketing. He explains that these kinds of fights against aging legends or undersized opponents are designed to capture public attention and generate headlines rather than test real skill. According to Rogan, Jake fully understands how to stay in the spotlight and uses unconventional matchups to keep people talking. The betting hype, the pre-fight trash talk, and the outrageous match pairings all serve one purpose: to turn boxing into entertainment rather than pure sport. Rogan admits that Jake's promotional instincts are brilliant, but he also warns that the sport's credibility suffers when such matchups take center stage.
Problem. That makes it a problem. My opinion is, I just want to say, in case someone calls me into court, I'm a fucking idiot and I don't know nothing. And don't take my advice.
I love the Saudis.
Don't take my opinion.
I love the Israeli government. I love everybody.
That had nothing to do with them. That was Jake Paul promoting it. You know, it's just doesn't bother me.
There's compromising the sport, and that's like bad. It's just like
if I bet on it,
watching
it
it
bothers
is
the fuck out
hard.
of me.
Watching it with people who are so in on it, and then also man, the sports betting apps, they introduced like chat apps in them in Australia, so it's like they're trying to take the place of social media companies where you go together and you meet your friends. Like betting should be exciting enough without having a weird.
They're just trying to draw you in.
Thing.
They're just trying to make money, right? So they're trying to draw you in any way.
Leonard Ellerby provides context about Gervonta Davis's mindset before the fight, revealing that Tank was not in the right mental state to face Lamont Roach earlier in the year. According to Ellerby, Davis had been dealing with deep personal challenges and was struggling to balance his mental well-being with his professional commitments. The decision not to fight Roach, he explains, was not about fear or avoidance, it was about self-preservation. Tank needed time to focus on his personal life and recover from internal pressures rather than add to them. Ellerby notes that Tank's choice reflected maturity and self-awareness, showing that sometimes stepping back is a smarter move than pushing through mental exhaustion.
Ellerby said, to tell you the truth, Gervonta Davis couldn't get up for Lamont Roach. And what does that mean? It means that he could not get inspired, that he was not motivated to fight Lamont Roach, that his mind was not in a place where it was like, yeah, okay, let's get it, and he was going to war with Lamont Roach. He was going through the motions with Lamont Roach during the training camp and could never really get himself motivated to really give the best of himself against Lamont Roach, and that probably affected him during training and during the fight. And that is something that can happen, especially if you really look back on what happened with the Lamont Roach fight and all of the ups and downs about that fight being made. Because first, if you recall, he wasn't supposed to be fighting Lamont Roach. The person he was supposed to be fighting was Vasily Lomachenko. You know, the guy that everybody says that he doesn't want to fight, that he didn't want to fight. Gervonta Davis was up and prepared to fight Vasily Lomachenko. So it shouldn't surprise anybody that if he tries to make a fight with Vasily Lomachenko, that fight doesn't go through. Then he tries to make a fight with Lamont Roach. He can't get the fight done for Houston with Lamont Roach because there was all kind of venue problems and drama going on around Gervonta getting a venue in Houston. So they wind up eventually moving the fight to New York City and pushing it back even further. So not only is it a fight where he didn't just jump out of from his last fight that he had and jump into a fight with Lamont Roach, he got held up. And then also during that period of time, he had to spend some time in jail for a parole violation after I believe that might have been after the Lamont Roach.
Reports now suggest that Gervonta Davis plans to retire following his upcoming bout with Jake Paul. Sources close to his camp claim that this decision isn't about chasing legacy or collecting more championship belts, it's about financial stability. Observers believe Tank accepted this fight not because it enhances his career, but because it guarantees him one of the biggest paydays of his life. The match, therefore, represents a business move rather than a competitive one. Analysts highlight that Tank has endured intense personal and professional pressure in recent years, which may have driven him toward this pragmatic choice. Viewed from this angle, the fight with Jake Paul becomes less a sporting contest and more a calculated step toward securing long-term security before stepping away from boxing for good.
What you make? Like, let's go band for band on what you make. Again, there's nothing wrong with Tank going to get his money, but let's all be clear that that's all the fight is for Tank. He's telling you without telling you that he's fighting Jake just because he's getting $40 million. So when we talk about boxing being dead, Tank has to line up at the front of the line. I can't blame him, but don't throw around, oh, boxing's dead and people switch sides and all of that. You chose not to be great. That's it. You chose not to be great. Stuff like that, choices like that will kill boxing. For sure. On a competitive level, it won't kill it on a business level. On a business level, until people run out of interest in these kind of matchups, it'll do well. On a competitive level, choosing not to fight the best will kill the sport. So maybe it's better if people like Tank aren't in the sport. And I don't even say that because I want that to be the case. I think Tank is ridiculously talented, but you can't want a fighter to fight more than what they want to. You can't. Tank fans or Tank people that like Tank and think he's one of the best, you can't want it for him. And then Shakur came back with, that's how I know you soft. I can't even go back and forth with you soft ass. You'd rather pop to me on social media than get in that fire and get embarrassed. I get it. Peace and blessings upon you, cuz. He says, the people got your chest out so bad. You talking like you a killer, forgetting that you the one that runs, bitch. I'll be bring the fight to you. This dude, a made-up character. Quote, blessings upon you. Clown-ass dude, wanna be Kevin Gates. Oh my goodness. I mean, here's the thing though. You can't say that stuff about Shakur if you're not willing to fight him. This is the point I think that we're going to come to today, is that Tank can say all this stuff he wants, but if you're not willing to fight Shakur, then none of it means anything anymore. Even if you believe that Tank is going to knock him out, even if you believe that Shakur's a runner, or that he's not in the trenches, or he's not a boxer that's willing to bring the fight, or whatever, none of it matters. You're talking from the sideline. Because you...
Daniel Cormier expresses outright disbelief over how the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight was ever approved. He recalls the press conference where Tank himself appeared unsure about what weight class the fight would even be contested in, a clear sign, Cormier says, that the whole setup is poorly structured. He reminds fans that weight divisions exist in boxing for a vital reason, to protect fighters from dangerous mismatches. The sheer difference in size and weight between Jake and Tank, according to Cormier, makes this bout unsafe and irresponsible. He questions how any athletic commission could sanction a fight that defies boxing's fundamental safety rules. To him, this matchup doesn't represent fair competition but rather a publicity stunt that risks turning boxing into a circus. Cormier concludes that prioritizing entertainment over safety is a dangerous path for the sport.
Jake Paul. Yesterday they had their first press conference. One of the most recognizable things is Jake Paul is huge compared to Gervonta Davis. And two, Gervonta Davis don't even know what weight they fight, dude.
Maximum weight of 195 pounds for this exhibition. The fight will be contested over 10 3-minute rounds. I said it was 190. The fight is 195 pounds, Tank, as you know.
DC, I watched this, and we have our priorities way misplaced when we're talking about boxing. Like, everybody's complaining about this Ali act and all. Like, how is something like this allowed to happen? How is Jake Paul allowed to fight Gervonta Davis? It's completely unfair. It is completely just, I can't say the word that I want to say because I don't want to get canceled, but this fight should not be happening, and the press conference was embarrassing. Gervonta Davis should not have a mic in front of him. It was absolutely embarrassing watching this thing.
Why, D?
Just the fact that, like, every time when Jake Paul would say something to Gervonta Davis, he didn't know how to answer it. He was comparing himself to, like, P. Diddy at moments, and I was like, oh my God, get a mic away from this guy. This fight shouldn't be happening. And then he didn't even know what weight they were fighting. Like, I thought
That's
it was
bad,
195.
That was the craziest thing. That was the thing that stood out to me the most. Was that when they go, the rehydration limit or something is 195. And he goes, wait, I thought it was 190. Dean, that's bad.
In a rare moment of honesty, Gervonta Davis opens up about his true motivations. He admits that his dream was never to become a legendary boxing champion. His real goal was financial independence, to escape hardship and build a better life for himself and his family. Boxing, for him, was a means to an end rather than an ultimate ambition. Titles, recognition, and fame were secondary to stability and success. This revelation gives a new perspective to his current choices, showing that his acceptance of fights like this one with Jake Paul aligns with his original purpose, achieving long-term security, not chasing glory.
And while he's fighting YouTube sensation turned professional boxer Jake Paul, who is 12 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 7 wins by way of knockout, opposed to fighting against the likes of his peers who are well accomplished and superstars in their own right, but legacy fights like Shakur Stevenson, like Teofimo Lopez, like Devin Haney, why he's not interested in those fights. And he gets real, right? He gets real, and only thing we could do is salute it. Right? Because he's saying, I never told y'all I wanted to be a world champion. I never told y'all I wanted to be undisputed. I got into this for myself and my circumstances to escape from my circumstances. And that's real. We can't blame him for that. We hold him in high regard because the statements he's made and misled people when he said he got a hit list that he wants to check off before he retires, and that hit list includes Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, Lomachenko, who turned down the fight because of a severe back injury. And then he told the world, he told Champside, it would be great for him to become undisputed. So I think that he had a change of heart at some point in time along the way, right?
Showbiz The Adult praises Jake Paul for the way he's managed to bring mainstream attention back to boxing. He acknowledges that Jake has an exceptional ability to attract new audiences, generate hype, and make people talk about the sport again. However, Showbiz also presents the other side of the coin. Jake's career has been built around facing opponents who are smaller, older, or less experienced than him. This pattern has drawn heavy criticism from traditional boxing fans who value the sport's foundation of fair and competitive matchups. While Jake has undeniably boosted boxing's visibility, he's also blurred the line between legitimate fighting and entertainment-driven spectacle.
Boxing is going to sing his praises like a hero. Though Jake Paul is definitely appreciated by the boxing world when it comes to what he is giving to the sport, especially women's boxing, okay? I mean, it goes without saying that Jake Paul, an MVP, has added to the sport of boxing. But Jake Paul, the fighter, people are over his shit. There's a huge amount of boxing pugilists in the boxing community who's over his shit. And if Gervonta Davis stops that, if he is the one who stops this whole train, knocking out Jake Paul, he will become a boxing hero. People will then say, now get the hell out the sport. And I'm talking about from a fighter's perspective. That's what they're going to say. Now, it's not going to go on either one of their official records because it's an exhibition.
Showbiz The Adult praises Jake Paul for the way he's managed to bring mainstream attention back to boxing. He acknowledges that Jake has an exceptional ability to attract new audiences, generate hype, and make people talk about the sport again. However, showbiz also presents the other side of the coin. Jake's career has been built around facing opponents who are smaller, older, or less experienced than him. This pattern has drawn heavy criticism from traditional boxing fans who value the sport's foundation of fair and competitive matchups. While Jake has undeniably boosted boxing's visibility, he's also blurred the line between legitimate fighting and entertainment-driven spectacle.
Optically, visually, seeing that go viral, and I mean go viral, and Jake Paul will never hear the end of it.
Help you up. We're gonna see about it. Help you up. We're gonna see.
Because Gervonta Tank Davis is not only a real boxer, he's a real boy. He's 5'5". He's a lightweight. Skills pay the bills. Let him knock out Jake Paul, give him Bambi legs, or knock him down. Gervonta Tank Davis, that moment, will go viral, and he will be a far bigger, well-known boxer than he is today, and he will also be a hero. And that's the Black Toe Show. That you guys don't want to admit it. Don't bull jive. Think about it.
That concludes today's discussion. Stay tuned for more updates and insights on what could be one of the most talked about and most controversial fights in recent boxing history.